ever spent an evening watching motivational videos, feeling that incredible surge of inspiration that I can do anything fire, only to find that, well, 5 hours later you've done nothing but consume more content?
Yeah. That feeling is so familiar, isn't it? That temporary high.
And what if that feeling of being fired up isn't actually a catalyst for change, but is really a trap?
A trap, exactly.
Like a modern addiction to positive emotions that gives you the feeling of progress without any of the real work, and it's actively weakening your willpower in the process.
That's the core idea we're diving into today.
Welcome to Bookcast Stories Show today. With Bookcast number 7, we expose the weakness of will and the dependence on external inspiration.
It's a really insightful piece.
We'll uncover how waiting for the mood to strike drains your energy, creates what the source calls a karma of procrastination, and essentially puts your destiny in the hands of these fleeting emotions.
Yeah, handing over control.
Stay with us to learn how to stop being, well, a passive machine and start forging the iron core of your will.
Because when action waits for the right feeling, potential just, it stays parked, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. That immediate electrifying surge you talked about, that confidence boost, it feels so real.
Oh, completely. But it's often mistaken for actual capacity, for the ability to follow through. The source material for this deep dive is incredibly clear on the pathology of this problem.
Pathology, that's a strong word.
It is, but it fits. The core distinction we really have to make right at the start is defining what a weak will actually is, according to this framework.
Yeah, okay.
It's not simply failing at a goal sometimes. Everyone does that. It's more a deep-seated lack of internal initiative, where your action is entirely, completely dependent on grabbing onto some momentary emotional state, that external surge you mentioned.
Ah, okay. So if that external fuel, that video or song or quote, is removed, the engine just stops cold.
Exactly. We're talking about an inner strength that is either fundamentally absent or maybe just so weak it can't generate its own independent drive.
Right.
These individuals, as the source describes them, they lack these self-generated solid behavioral pillars. They become reactive creatures.
Just reacting to the environment, not shaping it.
Precisely. Not proactive agents in their own lives. And this is where, our modern context clashes so violently with historical understanding, with wisdom traditions.
How so?
Well, for centuries, wisdom traditions across cultures have emphasized self-direction as the mark of real strength. Think about it. We have proverbs, sayings, all pointing to the same idea. The strong person doesn't wait for a favorable wind, but rows themselves.
Rows themselves. I like that. The effort comes from within.
Yes. The emphasis isn't on the ease of the journey or catching a lucky break. It's on the capacity to overcome difficulty without needing the aid of those favorable external factors.
So if you only act when the music is soaring or, the crowd is cheering.
You're just following circumstance. You're not mastering it. You haven't built that inner engine.
That concept, though, the ability to overcome difficulty without needing outside encouragement, that feels really challenging today. Modern life seems almost designed to deliver that constant external buzz, doesn't it?
It absolutely is. It requires us to consciously decouple effort from immediate pleasure or external validation. And if your inner core isn't solid, you are, like you said earlier, just constantly tossed around by these external waves.
It creates this state of perpetual passivity, where you only run when someone else is constantly supplying the fuel.
Yeah, and it's important to clarify here, willpower isn't about being emotionless or robotic. That's not the goal.
Okay, good distinction.
It's about being autonomous. Willpower, in this context, is the ability to commit to and then execute the necessary task, doing the right thing, the thing you decided was important, regardless of the current emotional climate inside you.
So it's like being the steady hand on the rudder, even if the sailor feels seasick.
That's a perfect analogy. That level of self-mastery, that's the high bar we're examining today.
It really sets a demanding standard, because if strong will is defined by acting consistently regardless of mood, then, wow, we really need to take a hard look at our own habits, don't we?
We do.
Which brings us to our first question for you, listening right now. How often do you wait for the perfect mood before taking that first step? Do you need to feel energized before you start cleaning the kitchen, or feel inspired before you sit down to write that report or work on your project?
Just take a moment to reflect on that,
Yeah.
because that reflection transitions us perfectly into understanding this key difference between a mood-driven life and what the source calls a mission-driven life.
Mood-driven versus mission-driven.
Okay? And in our digitally saturated era, This dependency on external feeling,
Okay.
on waiting for the mood, it's amplified like never before, exponentially.
Oh, absolutely. Just look at the current media landscape.
Yeah.
Social media, the algorithms feeding us content, those endless streams of short clips. It feels like a nonstop emotional performance contest.
That's a great way to put it.
Everyone's either seeking or providing some kind of quick rush, aren't they? We end up consuming feeling itself, and we tragically confuse that consumption with actually doing something, with execution or real development.
And the source pinpoints the specific danger in that cycle. People essentially become addicts of temporary positive emotions. That's the phrase used.
Addicts of temporary positive emotions. Wow.
Oh, yeah. They mistake that rush of feeling inspired or motivated for genuine progress. They feel the potential, you see, and their brain actually rewards them as if the work were already underway or even done.
So the brain gives you the reward feeling up front.
Exactly. Which makes the follow through feel less necessary. And that's why the cycle is so brutal. After 5 minutes of fire is 5 hours of laziness. That's another quote from the source.
5 minutes of fire, 5 hours of laziness. That's stark.
It is. That brief surge of emotional excitement leaves the individual feeling drained, having actually accomplished nothing tangible, but maybe feeling temporarily self-righteous or motivated.
Yeah. It's the ultimate short circuit then. A mental loophole where that initial dopamine hit convinces the brain the task is basically complete, or at least well started, making the actual, often difficult follow-through seem less critical.
Precisely. And the source argues this isn't just a personal failing here and there, it's becoming a modern epidemic of motivation shortfalls, a widespread cultural pattern.
And there's data backing this up, right?
There is. The 2024 Internal Capacity Development Institute survey, which the source cites, revealed a really alarming finding. 82% of young people under 30 struggle significantly to maintain consistent daily training or practice if they are not externally inspired.
82%. That's staggering.
It's huge. A massive portion of the population apparently requires a constant external pep talk, some outside stimulus, simply to meet their own basic commitments.
Commitments like, say, going to the gym regularly, or studying a language consistently, or even just sticking with a demanding project at work or school.
Exactly. It's like they've outsourced their own will to the algorithm or a playlist or a celebrity's latest quote.
Wow. Okay, so the reliance is widespread.
And this reliance is perfectly illustrated by that nautical analogy we touched on earlier. Inspiration is the wind. Okay? It makes things easier, faster, maybe more pleasant when it's blowing your way.
Sure, wind is helpful.
But action needs the oar. The oar is your willpower, your commitment. The wind is fickle, it comes and goes. Only the oar ensures direction, navigation, and continuous movement, especially through the calm patches or when the wind is against you.
So if you stop rowing when the wind dies,
You just drift, you lose control.
the moment you choose to only rely on the wind, on that external inspiration, you're basically handing over control of your direction, your destiny maybe, to environmental chance. Or worse, like you said, to algorithms designed to maximize your screen time, not your actual productivity or well-being.
Whereas willpower, by contrast, aims to be stable. It's the consistent commitment to the destination, the mission, that allows you to rise above those inevitable emotional fluctuations. But it requires accepting that difficulty, boredom, and effort are part of the deal.
Right, it's not always going to feel exciting.
Almost never, consistently. A mission-driven existence accepts that emotional fluctuation is inevitable. It knows the journey will contain boredom, difficulty, frustration. But the key is, it maintains solid behavioral pillars regardless of the mood.
While a mood-driven existence.
It just ceases action the moment the mood becomes anything other than positive or excited. The first sign of fatigue or boredom, and it's over.
The mission is the anchor then. The mood is just the surface ripple. That's a powerful distinction.
It really is.
And understanding that difference leads us straight into our second question for you listening. What goal in your life keeps waiting for the right moment? That perfect mood, the right feeling, the ideal day. What's stuck in that waiting room?
And think about the cost of that waiting. Because that delay, contrary to what many people believe, it isn't a neutral position. It's not harmless. It has concrete, compounding consequences.
Okay, let's break those down. The source organizes them into 3 critical areas, right?
Yes. The first area deals with your internal stability, which the source talks about using a concept related to vibrational energy.
Vibrational energy. Okay, that sounds a bit abstract. What does it mean practically?
Think of it less as something mystical and more about your fundamental state of inner coherence or stability. When individuals are driven purely by feeling, their internal state is described as chaotic, erratic.
Like inner noise.
Exactly. Imagine a pure, steady tone that represents strong, focused will. Now imagine a constant buzzing static that's the erratic, mood-driven mind. The source uses this analogy of a candle standing in the wind.
Oh.
Its flame, representing your inner strength or focus, is easily extinguished, constantly flickering. And this volatility, this constant flickering, prevents what the source calls consolidation.
Consolidation.
Consolidation means that deep, unwavering focus and inner calm that's required for any kind of complex or difficult sustained work. If your energy is always scattering, you can't build momentum.
Got it. So, this vibrational energy concept is really a way to describe our capacity for internal stability against all that mental noise and emotional fluctuation. If you're constantly chasing external excitement, your inner self is perpetually unstable.
Leading to scattered thinking, mental confusion, maybe a paralyzing lack of decisiveness because you never feel grounded enough to commit.
You have all this potential energy, but because it's constantly vibrating, it never gets channeled into a steady line of focused action. It just dissipates.
And it means you're far more prone to making decisions based on immediate impulse, on the feeling of the moment, rather than on long-term strategic thought. Because that long-term view requires that consolidated, steady inner core.
That makes sense. And this instability over time, it creates something heavier, doesn't it? That leads to the second consequence mentioned.
Yes, it does. The second consequence, the karma of procrastination.
Karma. That sounds almost spiritual, but you said the source uses it more behaviorally.
Exactly. It's describing a tangible, self-perpetuating behavioral pattern. The idea is that this dependency on mood actively sows a seed of profound weakness within you, which guarantees future struggle and missed potential. It creates a negative feedback loop.
Okay. And there are specific types of this negative karma.
Two specific forms that really weaken the will are highlighted. The first one is called positive procrastination.
Positive procrastination. That sounds contradictory.
It does, and that's why it's so insidious. The intention behind it is good. The person genuinely wants to act kindly or do good work or reach out to someone, but they delay until the perfect, positive, optimistic mood strikes them.
Can you give an example?
Sure, let's use your earlier example. I want to write that thoughtful, diplomatic email to resolve a conflict at work. It's important. But I tell myself, I need to wait until I feel really calm and centered and perfectly articulate.
Right, you wait for the ideal internal state.
Yes. And because I wait for that perfect emotional alignment, which might never fully arrive, the necessary email remains unwritten for days, maybe weeks. I confuse optimizing the feeling with executing the necessity. I prioritize the subjective feeling of being ready over the objective requirement of just getting the task done.
Ouch. Okay, I see how that works. What's the second form?
The second is the addiction to beautiful emotions. This is maybe more common, or at least more obvious. It's the outright refusal to accept the boredom, monotony, the necessary grind that makes up, frankly, the vast majority of any successful process.
We just want the highlight reel, don't we? The feeling of the breakthrough, the excitement of the start, the joy of the finish line.
But we refuse to walk through those unglamorous valleys of repetition, effort, and sometimes sheer exhaustion that actually lead there. We're constantly just chasing the emotional peaks, avoiding the plateaus and dips where the real work happens.
And the consequence of refusing that grind.
It's devastating, according to the source. First, you lose the capacity to act when you are tired or uninspired, which is often when the most character-building work actually happens. Pushing through discomfort builds resilience.
Right.
Second, you consistently miss opportunities for genuine, deep growth, because that kind of growth is almost always rooted in that uninspired, sometimes boring, consistent effort. You end up constantly trading potential deep, lasting satisfaction for fleeting, temporary emotional excitement.
So you stay on the surface, emotionally speaking.
Pretty much. And if we expand this outward, looking at the bigger picture, it leads directly to the third, and perhaps most severe, consequence discussed. The impact on your destiny and your capacity for leadership.
Okay, how does weak will affect leadership potential?
Well, think about it. If you can't reliably lead yourself, if your own actions are constantly dictated by your mood swings, how can you possibly lead others effectively? The source argues very clearly that a person lacking this internal strong will simply cannot shoulder large responsibilities. They lack the necessary inner authority, the core strength.
Leadership requires stability, consistency, being a reliable presence, especially when things get tough.
Absolutely. If the leader's behavior is driven by the latest trend or public opinion or just their own fleeting emotional state that day, they can't be a reliable pillar for their team, their family, their community. They become unpredictable.
And predictability, or at least reliability, is the foundation of trust, isn't it?
It really is. The source material summarizes this point powerfully. The universe, it says, does not grant power to those who lack behavioral pillars.
Wow. Behavioral pillars.
Individuals who are dependent on external inspiration are always just reacting to their environment, following the emotional tide, following the trends. They aren't mastering their environment, they're simply passengers within it. They lack that internal gravitational pull of a solid core.
They get swept along.
Precisely. And that's why those seemingly small delays, those tiny moments where we choose to wait for the mood to be right, matter so much.
Because they're cumulative.
Yes. They are teaching your subconscious, reinforcing the idea that your circumstances, your feelings, are the boss, not you. They erode your internal authority one skip step, one delayed action at a time.
Which really underscores the importance of our third question for you, the listener. When has a small delay, maybe just a tiny moment of waiting for the mood, turned into a much bigger lost opportunity, or perhaps a significant failure to follow through on something important?
Recognizing the depth of this track, this cycle of dependence, is absolutely vital. But the real value of this deep dive, I think, lies in the robust, actionable solutions the source provides for actually forging this iron core of will.
Okay, let's get practical then, moving from understanding the problem to actually doing something about it. How do we start?
It begins with a really fundamental shift, a redefinition of what action even means in this context. If the old harmful definition was something like, I must feel inspired before I can act, what's the new liberating definition we need to adopt?
Okay, what is it?
The new definition, the core shift proposed, is simple but quite revolutionary in practice. Right action is action that is repeated daily, regardless of emotional state.
Regardless of emotional state, that just completely strips away the feeling prerequisite, doesn't it?
Completely. The focus moves entirely from how you feel to sheer reliability. Can you show up and do the thing regardless?
Reliability over inspiration. That could be a mantra in itself. Okay, so how do we implement this? What are the tools?
The source gives us several. The first is called the Behavioral Mantra Action Without Inspiration.
Okay.
This tool requires you to install 3 fixed, very small behaviors into your daily routine. The key is that the tasks must be manageable, not overwhelming. The goal here isn't massive achievement initially, it's just pure repetition, building the muscle of doing.
So small, fixed, daily actions, like what?
Examples could be drinking a specific amount of water at exactly 8:00 a.m. every single day. Or writing exactly 3 lines in a journal, no more, no less. Or reading exactly 5 pages of a challenging book, even if you don't absorb it all.
And the critical part.
The absolute necessity here is that you execute these tasks even when you are tired, bored, feeling resistant, or utterly convinced it's pointless in that moment. That is non-negotiable.
So the power lies in the uninspired repetition. It's the consistency itself that matters, not the feeling behind it.
Exactly. It's that consistent, almost boring, daily proof to yourself that you are stronger than your fleeting desire for comfort or excitement. It's like the steady drizzle that eventually carves the stone, not the dramatic flash flood.
Okay, that makes sense. Install small, non-negotiable daily actions. What comes next?
Once that small act is completed, especially when it felt hard, we move to tool 2, logging emotions.
Logging emotions, how does that work?
This is really critical for cognitive retraining. See, the mood-driven mind anticipates resistance, boredom, maybe even misery before the task. It tells you, this is going to feel bad.
Right, the dread sets in.
Yes. The source instructs us to deliberately take a moment to record our actual feelings after the small, fixed task is complete. We need to measure the actual outcome, not the predicted negative outcome.
Okay, so finish the 5 pages, then note how I feel.
Exactly. And what you'll almost invariably find, the source suggests, is that after completing those 5 uninspired pages, or those 3 lines of journaling, you experience a quiet wave of, well, peace or satisfaction, or just a subtle sense of accomplishment. It might not be euphoria, but it's usually calm and positive.
So logging the emotions isn't just random journaling, it's like gathering immediate counter evidence. You're proving to yourself that the negative feeling before the action was wrong.
Precisely.
Well-
You're providing hard data that satisfaction is often a consequence of action, especially difficult action, not its prerequisite. And this process, repeated daily, starts to rebuild self-trust. It establishes a reliable link in your brain between effort and internal reward, even if the reward is just quiet satisfaction.
I see. You're proving to yourself that the uncomfortable feeling usually precedes the stable, good outcome. Okay, that's powerful.
And the sustained, self-generated reward feeling leads us naturally into tool 3, nourishing inner spirit and dopamine management.
Okay, nourishing the inner spirit. Sounds important. How do we do that in a way that builds this stable will?
We need to build an internal source of peace and stability that is independent of external affirmation or excitement. The source suggests we tap into that by deliberately engaging in quiet activities that require minimal external input.
Like,
Think simple things. Meditation, even just 5 minutes. Or sitting still without any distraction. No phone, no music, just being. Or taking a silent walk, paying attention to your surroundings or your breath. These activities help quiet the internal chatter and allow you to find a sense of calm that isn't contingent upon the world shouting motivational quotes at you.
this is where you build that inner stability we talked about earlier, the unflinching flame, the steady
Right.
core.
Exactly. And the necessary flip side to cultivating inner quiet is actively managing our intake of external noise, specifically managing our dopamine sources. We need to ruthlessly cut out what the source refers to as fake dopamine.
Fake dopamine, what
Uh,
falls into that category?
Fake dopamine refers to those constant, quick, high peak, and rapidly crashing emotional hits we get from a lot of modern fast media. Think endless scrolling through short videos, or using loud, highly arousing music purely to hype yourself up artificially, or those grief motivational clips that give you that instant jolt of arousal without requiring any actual effort or thought from you.
Why are those so damaging? They feel good in the moment.
They feel good fleetingly, but they are highly damaging because they condition the brain to expect and crave immediate, intense rewards with zero effort. This severely weakens the will's capacity to tolerate necessary boredom, delay gratification, and persist through tasks that don't offer that instant hit.
Okay. They make the quiet, persistent work, like reading those 5 pages, seem unbearable by comparison because the brain now associates reward only with rapid, high stimulation.
Precisely. So to break that dependency, we must consciously reduce the fake dopamine and actively increase what the source calls real dopamine.
A real dopamine, what generates that?
Real dopamine is the reward associated with delayed gratification. It comes from pursuing activities that demand persistence, focus, and genuine effort. Things like deep reading of complex material, mastering a difficult skill over time, or overcoming a real-world challenge that requires grit.
So the reward comes later, and maybe it's less intense initially.
Exactly. It yields a more sustained, deeper kind of satisfaction. Think of it as a lower peak, perhaps, but a much, much longer and more stable plateau. And crucially, engaging in these activities structurally reinforces the neural pathways for sustained effort and concentration. It actually strengthens the will's core, rather than draining it like the fake dopamine hits do.
This whole dynamic, the reliance on external hype versus internal drive, it's really clear in that example the source provides about the young runner, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's a perfect illustration. They watch a highly inspirational running video, maybe with epic music and shots of athletes overcoming adversity.
They feel that surge, that I can do anything fire we started with.
Right. And they start running strong on day 1, maybe day 2. But by day 5, the initial hype is inevitably worn off. No new, equally electric video has appeared that morning,
Yeah.
and they just stop. They skip the run.
Why? What's the analysis there?
The analysis is straightforward based on what we've discussed. They weren't actually building the identity of a runner, which requires accepting the inherent boredom, discomfort, and sheer consistency of training day after day, rain or shine, inspired or not.
Instead.
They were simply consuming emotion, the feeling generated by the video, and acting solely based on that external consumption. Their behavior was wholly dependent on the continuous supply of emotional fuel. If the inspiration stops, the action stops. Full stop.
They got addicted to the feeling of potential, the feeling of being a runner, not the actual reality of the effort involved.
That's it exactly. And that reality, the reality of building anything worthwhile, is built one small, often uninspired step at a time.
Which brings us right back to the practical application and our 4th critical question for you listening. What's one thing, just one small thing you could commit to doing today? That small, fixed behavior from Tool 1, even if you absolutely do not feel ready or inspired to do it.
Just picking that one thing and doing it regardless starts the process. Once we internalize these practical tools, the small daily actions, logging the after feeling, managing dopamine, finding inner quiet, It really helps to step back and visualize the entire negative process we're trying to escape.
Right. Understanding the trap helps us avoid falling back in. The source provides a clear schematic for this, doesn't it? A kind of blueprint of the problem.
Yes, they lay out what they call the flow chart of dependence.
Okay, let's synthesize things by walking through that negative cycle together, because escaping the trap really does require knowing exactly where you might be positioned within it at any given time. Where does it typically begin?
It begins simply with a state of no inspiration, feeling flat, unmotivated, bored.
Which, for the mood-driven person, is immediately and almost automatically translated into no action. If I don't feel like it, I don't do it.
Exactly. This lack of initiative, this inaction, inevitably results in a missed opportunity, whether it's a big project goal or just a small chance to connect with someone or improve something.
And the consequence of that missed opportunity, often it's feelings of guilt and self-blame, isn't it? Ugh, I should have done that.
Precisely. Feeling guilty or down on yourself is uncomfortable, naturally. So we seek relief. We look for the easiest fix, the quickest escape from that negative feeling.
Which is why we immediately go and seek out an inspirational video or quote or some other external hype.
Bingo. This provides that immediate but very superficial rush, the fake dopamine boost we talked about, a temporary high.
Okay, so now I feel momentarily better, maybe even fired up again.
Right, and that boost might fuel a short burst of action, but it's often poorly executed, maybe half-hearted, what the source calls superficial action. Just enough to quiet the guilt momentarily.
But it doesn't build anything lasting.
No. This temporary relief does nothing to establish deep habits or build real competence. It simply leads the individual right back around to the start of the cycle again, maybe feeling even more depleted. This results in continued dependence on the next hit of inspiration, and crucially, no genuine growth.
Wow. It really is a perpetual self-defeating loop, isn't it? Fueled entirely by chasing feelings and avoiding discomfort.
Completely. And the fundamental flaw, the linchpin holding that whole destructive cycle together, is the deeply ingrained belief that the feeling must precede the movement, that you need inspiration before you can act.
So we have to consciously reframe that. Reframe waiting for inspiration as what it truly is.
Which is essentially emotional procrastination.
Emotional procrastination. I like that. It cuts right through the excuses.
Yeah.
The truth, which that flowchart makes painfully clear, is that action, even small, uninspired action, creates clarity and builds momentum much faster than just sitting around thinking about it or waiting for the right feeling to magically appear.
Absolutely. Action first, feeling follows. And breaking this cycle, therefore, means accepting something quite counterintuitive in our excitement-addicted culture. The power of monotony.
The power of monotony. That doesn't sound very inspiring.
It doesn't. But the final conclusion of the source material is that real, durable willpower is not found in the lightning bolt of inspiration. It's built like a muscle through steady, regular practice. It's a quiet current, not a flash flood.
So to forge that iron core of will, we have to accept boredom, accept monotony, accept repetition.
Yes. We have to accept them not as enemies to be avoided, but as fundamental, necessary components of self-cultivation and achieving anything meaningful. That acceptance is the key that unlocks the door out of the dependence trap.
Because that acceptance, that willingness to do the work even when it's boring or hard, that's the path to the unshakable spirit the source talks about.
Exactly. Every single small act you force yourself to perform, despite feeling tired or bored or uninspired, is tangible, objective proof to your subconscious mind that you are leading your mood, not following it.
You're teaching your mind through action that you are the architect of your behavior, regardless of the emotional weather forecast for the day.
It becomes the ultimate measure of self-mastery. The true strength of your will is proven not by how enthusiastically you start when the mood is perfect, but by how reliably you can continue when the mood is entirely absent, or even negative.
That leaves us with one final thought for reflection then, a question to really sit with. What would your life look like if you trusted consistency more than motivation?
Trusting consistency. It's ultimately trusting the fundamental power of your own sustained effort, independent of fleeting feelings. It's trusting the oar, not just waiting for the wind.
That's today's reflection on the Bookcast Story Show.
We're Lily.
And I'm Sam. Thank you for joining us. If this talk gave you some clarity or perhaps a bit of courage to take that first uninspired step, please like this video and subscribe so you won't miss the next chapter.
Until next time, act kindly, act bravely, and keep moving.